right. Okay, so with that, I'm going to start the recording so we can start our session. All right, I can now say officially welcome to the honors info session. Thank you so much for our panelists who we'll introduce very shortly, as well as to the fellows who are here to learn more about the honors experience. As I mentioned, this is being recorded, so we'll be sharing this out. This is meant to be a pretty informal session, really aimed at sharing more about the honors experience, how it's different from the year one, and also how it will look different moving forward as well. We really encourage you to write any questions that you might have in the chat, as well as feel free to unmute. There's going to be dedicated time at the end for just a really open Q&A, but as well as during the session, if you have questions on a certain session, or a certain section or aspect of the few slides we have prepared, feel free to jump in. Cool. All right. So with that, here's just a bit of an overview of what we'll cover. Again, just the honors format, some of the questions that I've been hearing throughout the last few weeks about the honors experience. We're going to talk about partners and projects, the wide range that you can expect to see as a part of the honors experience, and some examples from our lovely panelists here, as well as then just an open Q&A that is really a chance for you all to ask your questions and for our panelists to answer genuinely and honestly, as well as for Jennifer and I are here to also answer your questions from the staff perspective as well. Cool. Okay, so with that, I first wanted to spend a little time and allow our panelists to introduce themselves. If you all wouldn't mind sharing, your name, maybe where you're at now, a current honors fellow or alum, and just maybe one fact about yourself. That would be great. And if we could start with Nseke and then move across to Lorraine and Shirley, and then Madhav and Yo-Yo, that would be great. So Nseke, if you won't mind starting us off.
Okay, yeah. So my name's Nseke. I'm a senior. I am a product manager, a major, and I am in North Oakland / Berkeley currently. And a fun fact about me is I like basketball a lot.
And you're a current honors fellow.
And I'm a current honors fellow.
Awesome. Thanks, Nseke. And Lorraine, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Lorraine. I live in Iowa currently. I live with my family. I am an alumna of the Fung Fellowship in the Honors Program. And a fun fact about me is that I collect vintage postcards, and I'm sitting around so many of them. So here's one of them. And here's my most recent favorite. It's Lady Liberty with the hot dog.
Nice, love it. Thanks, Lorraine. And Shirley, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Hello, I'm Shirley. I am an honors alum, and right now I'm zooming in from my home in Southern California. Right now, I am about to enter my master's program back at the School of Information, and I believe that's it. Am I missing anything? Oh, and I started skateboarding like around last month, so I'm like, that's my new venture.
Nice, nice, awesome. Thanks, Shirley. And Madhav.
Hi, everybody. My name is Madhav. I am a fourth-year economics major. I am obviously a current honors fellow. And a fun fact about me is that I really enjoy hiking. And I'm in Berkeley right now.
Awesome, thanks. I love hiking too. And Yo-Yo.
Hey everyone, my name is Yo-Yo. I studied environmental economics and policy, and I graduated last year. And I'm currently staying in Fremont, California, so just about an hour away from Berkeley. And a fun fact about me is, Lorraine, we have to connect because I have started to love postcards, and I'm starting to create my own and do a little like snail mailing for some of my friends on the other side of the country. So small hobby of mine.
Nice. Love it. Love the snail mail. Wonderful. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. As I mentioned, there'll be much more time to hear from each of our panelists today, as well throughout the presentation, but also at the end. All right. So first, starting off, so a bit of this is an overview of what maybe you all have seen, but just a little more and in a different format. So some key components of the honors experience is a bit in how it's really structured. So it is an independent study course. So it's that Public Health 199 of 3 units. However, as an independent study course, it's really run as an innovation lab. So what that means is very differently from your current fellow experience. This is really an experience that's very customizable to both fellows as individuals, but also as teams. So what that means is you'll be working on a 32-week-long project with a partner or your own venture. And with that, there'll be deliverables to guide you along the way. I'll share a calendar overview in a moment so you can get a sense, and really allows for cross-sharing. However, I want to mention that a 32-week project doesn't mean it's without pivots and changes, as some of the projects you'll see here today. Many have made significant or smaller changes throughout that 32-week process, and that's something that the fellowship staff is really there to support and guide you all on. So in addition to this project aspect, there's a huge amount of support that's really built into this experience. I like to say it's a very high touch student to staff ratio within the honors experience, which is really exciting. I'm personally really excited to work closely with the honors fellows in the next cohort, as I've really enjoyed working with this cohort and the previous as well. We do have a dedicated GSI for the honors experience, as well as a number of industry and community mentors that work alongside you within your projects, but then also supporting your professional journeys. Additionally, there's also a leadership component. This is probably the aspect that will be redesigned again for next year. So a little bit on that is we're really focusing on professional development and what it takes both on the partnership management realm, but also within each of your own career trajectories, explorations, and how to really support you all in that as you move beyond Cal, as well as an opportunity to really mentor year 1 fellows. So this is a great opportunity to really get to cultivate your leadership skills, refine what you've learned, and also share with the incoming cohort, who are always very excited to engage with the honor students. I think something to really mention, this is co-design is an even I'm going to say even larger, but it is a huge piece of the honors experience, especially because it is a smaller cohort. One huge way we're going to be co-designing and kind of reiterating this year is we obviously have 2 tracks, conservation and health, and both fellows that apply to the honors program will be in one honors cohort. So we'll have industry partners and community partners who are representing both in the health realm, but as well as in the conservation and biodiversity realm as well. And fellows will really be free to decide which organization they work with, despite what track they were in coming into the fellowship. Any questions on that before I move on? It's kind of a lot of info. All right. So here is just a year view. I wanted to provide this just to really show you, quite differently from the courses you're in now that meet weekly, maybe twice a week with a lecture and a lab. This is really at a very high level where we'll be connecting as a cohort, as you can see in these yellow all hands kind of square looking diamonds, as well as GSI lab. So with that dedicated GSI, you'll be working with your team throughout the year, as well as meeting as a cohort altogether once a month. Again, sprinkled within that, you will have a number of professional development and leadership support and opportunities, mentorship, as well as one-on-one check-ins to really help support you all in figuring out and supporting what are your next steps. So again, just to reiterate, what are some of the unique features? Very co-designed experience, especially going into this next iteration, and opportunities to really influence what it is we focus on, what speakers we invite into those all-hand meetings, how the deliverables are going and what needs to be customized, how we're going to pivot both within the program and within your project. It is a venture style course, we say in quotes, so it's very untraditional and customizable. High touch support with staff. Again, a sustained real world experience. We've had many alumni refer to their experience as kind of an internship, but within their Cal senior year. So again, getting that kind of longer term experience with a partner or with a personal venture. And then the merging of the health and conservation tracks into one honors cohort, which is really exciting. Our first time we'll be doing that. So now I would love to just provide a little bit of overview of projects, which I think is the majority of the questions that we've gotten so far. So there's a huge range in terms of what projects that we'll bring into this honors experience. And there's kind of 4 different categories, and we'll provide examples for each. So one example of projects that we end up launching for the honors experience are continuation from year 1 projects with the same partner. So I know many of you have been excited about the project that you've been working on and might like to continue working on that same project. So that is something that is definitely on the table for the honors experience as well. However, there's a number of fellows who are really excited about working with an organization. And so fellows really work to cultivate that partnership and cultivate the project. So we have a great example of that today that Madhav will share with us. Also, there's an opportunity for a new venture without a formal project partner. So this can look like a number of different things, but really an idea that a fellow team really wants to pursue that doesn't have a formal partner. And lastly, a project pivot, but with a project partner. So that is when, again, you have a project partner, you get partly through the project and then significantly change your direction during that 32-week process. So Elder Care Alliance will share a bit about their project and kind of give an example of what that looked like for them. And again, team formation, we're looking for teams of 4 to 5 honors fellows. It is very fellow driven, the process of selecting your partner as well as selecting who is in your team. So you will be ensured to work on a project and with others that you're excited to work with. But we like to say it's also staff supported. And we really want to make sure that this project that you're working on, especially as the main focus of this experience, is really aligned with your interests and area of impact. So we'll be doing a lot of that matching and that work, that partner cultivation over the summer, and have honors fellows really involved in that process to make sure that we're hitting the mark and that we're good to go and ready to hit the ground running when fall semester begins. So again, here's just a few examples of our past or current partners. We're going to learn much more about them in depth today, but just wanted to share a few kind of the range of where we've been at. In addition, so these are all health related. Obviously, we're going to really expand next year in terms of which organizations we engage with. So with that, I've created slides for each of our projects and for our panelists to talk about here. Lorraine, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a bit about your project. You can talk to or ignore the text on the screen, but just share a little bit about your project and maybe a little bit about if you had any pivots throughout the year and just maybe a major takeaway. That would be great.
Yeah, happy to share more. So yeah, I was working with some teammates with Bitmark. So Bitmark is an org that works on data protections and trying to improve the consent processes that we use to give away our data. And the overall issue that we were trying to tackle was the fact that, one, a lot of people give their data away without knowing what the consequences are or without information about what's going on in the transaction of data. And that a lot of that data goes to corporate purposes and not really for the broader well-being of society in a lot of cases. So we were trying to see how we can not only improve the consent processes by which we share our data and improve the ways that we feel empowered to share our data, but also figure out how we can share or how we can use that data for health specific purposes. So it was a pretty big project. And yeah, I think one of our biggest challenges was definitely like toward the beginning, we had to kind of reorganize our team because we had varying interests and kind of just wanted to go in different directions. So we actually split off. And the picture that you see here is the team that ended up forming probably in like November or so. So we didn't really do much in the first semester, and then we kind of hit the ground running in January and did a lot of work. So yeah, definitely one of the challenges I think of the honors experience is the fact that it's such a long project and you can put things off if you like feel like it or if whatever, which is why the GSI check-ins are really important. But yeah, I think one of the pivots that we made that was one of my favorite pivots, I guess, at least in January, was we decided to focus a little bit more on co-design. And so we created an advisory board to kind of lead our design process. And this looked like recruiting college students who would be the ones served by our innovation to co-design with us, to work with us, to share ideas, to self-mobilize, to take ownership of the project. So it was really fun. And I personally really loved that aspect of the honors program because I remember in my first year of the fellowship learning all these design tools, and also in my academic experience, like learning about participatory action research and community-based participatory research. And I felt that the honors experience was a opportunity for me to kind of just combine both of those those kind of skill sets or ideas or theories. So I really loved that aspect of the project. And yeah, I'm sure other folks have insights about that like internship, self-made internship aspect of it as well.
Thanks so much, Lorraine. Really appreciate it. And so this was, again, a project that, you know, we had worked on in year one, preferably. We'd worked with Bitmark before, and then based on interest, they became an honors project partner. And then moving on to a current project, KP Digital. Madhav, if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about your project.
Yeah, so in fact, if it's okay, I could just like to share a little bit about why I wanted to come back as an honors fellow. So I think about 2 weeks after our final project in last spring was assigned, COVID hit, and so that sort of, you know, was the longest project of that year, and that's threw a wrench in everybody's plans, you know, across for any field. And so one of the things that I felt like I didn't get the chance to really explore much last year is really the prototyping and the iteration and being able to go deeper on one project, because the point of the first year fellowship is to really get you thinking, you know, in different contexts, so that then you can apply that in whatever areas is of most interest to you. And so because of that, most of the projects, as you all know, are a little bit shorter. And then the one that was longer, the final one, even that's not that long compared to the honors year. And because of COVID, we weren't able to do a lot of the in-person prototyping that or we didn't get to do that this year in person either, but really just to do that iteration. And so I felt like from the get-go, okay, there was like something, there's more work for me to do. There's more learning for me to do through the fellowship. And that the fellowship really provides a really, really great way to formalize that, because, and as Adrian has alluded to, I think there's so many different types of ways of securing projects and so many different areas in which projects happen, as these 4 examples I think do a great job of demonstrating. And so then from there, my interest was really, okay, I'm interested in going to medicine, and so are all 3 of my teammates. And so I wanted to understand this intersection of technology and medicine a little bit more. That's what I wanted to spend this year doing. And so from there, we tried to do one project with UCSF, and that actually, we met with Jennifer and them in the summer. Unfortunately, that fell through. And then thankfully, we were able to get connected with Kaiser. And so this is not mentioned in this slide here, but we also had a lot of back and forth with Kaiser on sort of trying to get the project that we wanted to focus on, because, and I think actually some of y'all I recognize from lab, that's one of the topics that we covered in lab this semester with Fahad and I, and my teammate Fahad. And so sort of that whole process also illustrated like the value of having the support of the fellowship, because we have, Jennifer, Adrian, Jack, our GSI, really are all there to sort of guide us through, help us talk through, a potential meeting before we would meet with a client, with a partner, sort of talking through what are the questions that they might ask, what should we have prepared. And so that's it, sort of that kind of support it's really rare, and it's very different than most other classes at Berkeley. Obviously, you already know that, but even if you in comparing to clubs where you're kind of maybe doing it all on your own, having institutional support is really, really helpful, and you're able to open a lot of doors and get that kind of structured experience while also having the creativity, the flexibility to do what you want to do. I think is really, really helpful. So sorry, none of that was about our project, but I am happy to chat a little bit about that really briefly, because I know I'm speaking for a while. So we decided to look more pivoting away from a project on like health insurance, more towards something more patient focused. We ended up being able to look at patient portals and designing those specifically for younger populations. And because most of the work that Kaiser has done so far has been in older demographics. And so from there, it was a really, really great opportunity to, because of the amount of time that we had to first have that first initial pivot, which took about more than half a semester of last semester, and then doing a wide range of like a much more deeper approach to the research of part of it in terms of distributing surveys, talking to like dozens of physicians and patients, both, we decided to segment into 3 different kinds of user groups. So general, young adults, and then we looked at those that have chronic conditions, sort of are familiar with digital technology, but also are interacting with the health system a lot more than a typical, say, college student or college graduate. And then also physicians. And so that was a really, really insightful process to just understand the space and understand, where are the challenges, where are the opportunities, and then from there transitioning over into prototyping. And we were actually lucky enough to be able to get their Figma, so their beta prototype, which is not yet it's not yet launched on their website. And they were like, let us know what we should change, sort of a thing. So really going from this broad overview into like honing in on one specific area, which is really hard to do. We had a lot of discussions about what would be the best way to do that. And there's still so much that, innovation in something like healthcare there's infinite opportunities to do that. There's not just one problem. There's so many different ways of solving, so many things that need to be solved, but having because you have to at some point actually make something implementable, right? Decide where you want to make a change. And so sort of seeing that process work in a large organization, I think that was a really, really valuable experience as well. So I'll conclude with that.
Thanks so much, Matt. That really, that was a great explanation of your journey here, which I really appreciate, because it was, that's not what's captured on the slide. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to go through that. I'm sure there'll be some questions about that as we go. Also, I'll say I just listened in to a presentation that Madhav and his teammates provided to Kaiser, and they're super excited about working with fellows, and I think are really interested in potentially continuing our work together if there's interest on the fellow side as well. So now I'll turn it over to Nseke to share a bit about his honors experience and his experience with his project.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. I think my honors experience was I like that. I like the definition that a couple of fellows proposed, like having like it's like an internship, if you will, because, or I would say it's like an internship / startup, really, particularly for my group. We were addressing how could we help senior citizens, low income Black and brown adults. How can we help them get access to the COVID shots? So we would register them. We created a hotline in which they would call us, and then we would go online and search all over online to get them registered for the vaccine. I think one of the best things about the Honors Fellowship, and Maha kind of touched on, is that you get to actually prototype. Due to the short nature of the design sprints of the year one, it's only so much you can do when you get 2 months to create a project and actually implement it. But when you have an entire year to implement something, you get a lot more leeway and got a lot more time to flesh things out and actually prototype. And I think prototyping is just the backbone of just design. I feel like where we in college, especially in all our classes, we operate on a purely like theoretical, this is in a book, this is what this dead guy said 100,000 years ago, yada, 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 yada. And I don't really teach nobody, right? When you actually prototyping and you create something to give value to somebody else, particularly if I'm going back to my group, Shotline, we created a Shotline to help those who could not sign up for the vaccine themselves. So when it was calling us and we helped them out, you can just feel and see like the excitement and the thank you. People were like, yo, thank you. I could not do this on my own. I was looking for months and months and you just helped me out. So like within the design process, just creating value for people, that was just very, very big. And I think that's one of the things that I really learned in my honors fellowship, is that how do you create value for someone? How do you refine the value that you're creating for somebody? Even in addition to that too, like the best thing about prototyping, you don't know how people are going to respond to it. Like, you know, when we were initially coming up with the hotline, I thought that people been wanting the COVID shots, they're traveling far and wide for it, right? So I'm excited. I called my mom, you know, I'm testing it out on something local. I'm like, Mom, found this COVID vaccine shot. It's 40 miles away from you, said you want it, I got it, boom. She's like, yo, I'm not traveling 40 miles for that. What are you talking about? Get something local. And I was like, dang, like, really? You ain't traveling 40 miles? But I had like erred in my own calculation. I thought that she would just really want it, and other people would just really want it without really talking to them. So a lot of times when we were prototyping and we were working out the kinks, you will have people that was telling us like, yo, I'm not traveling more than 5 miles. Some people say I'm really traveling 200-300 miles. So there was like a big range in between the users that we got. And I think one of the most exciting parts of the project, by leveraging the Fung Fellowship, to Maha's point again, is that we were able to do things that you typically would not be able to do in just a club or just a regular group. Because even I think how we leverage the Fung Fellowship to get on the news, how we leverage the Fung Fellowship to get in the Daily Cal, we went through their marketing department so they can push our message out there. And by leveraging them, we was able to have a greater impact and a greater reach. And I truly feel like that's where the Fung Fellowship at the first year, but even so much more at the Honors Fung Fellowship shines, because you just got dedicated staff. You got a PhD, and like Jennifer, you got a master's degree, and Adrian, you just got a lot of degrees and a lot of masters and a lot of PhDs that's willing to help you and willing to put in the work for you. They will meet you halfway. Like Mahav, I'm just gonna keep on quoting Mahav because he was just dropping gems and jewels, like meeting with our GSI, like our mentor, and he was constantly telling us, hey, I see what you're doing here. Have you considered going this route? Have you prepped for this meeting? Have you thought about these questions? or even talking to our former professor, Just Paul, he was always dropping jewels on us. So I think that was really, really great for our growth and really, really great for us to provide the value and the impact that we had. And I think last, I would end being that I think the ultimate growth happens within the Honors Fung Fellowship is because that startup vibe, you have to know how to like leverage whatever skill set you're bringing. You have to know how to leverage that skill set, communicate with other people, particularly if you communicate with design person or computer science person. There's different ways that you have to communicate to reach them, and there's different ways they have to communicate to reach you. So that constant give and push and pull and that constant tension, it really helps you grow. Like classes, they just can't teach you that. And I think classes can't teach you that even in a one semester block. Like when you have an entire year to work on a project with you're gonna get to know them very well. And I would say, particularly for you all that's considering applying to a Fung Fellowship honor, I really highly suggest you do that, because it's only so much you could have done like in the year one virtual experience. I feel like to a certain degree, you all was robbed, right? A lot of the magic that the Fung Fellowship has is that in-person experience, that in-person bonding, that the retreats, the communication, the workshops, all of those things makes for a very dynamic experience. So I really think coming back for that honors is really going to be able to take you to the next level. And you would be able to practice the skill sets that you learn in different class, whether it be programming, whether it be data analysis, whether it be communication, public speaking, whatever you have, you'd be able to practice that in a group and have tangible results and impact. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Thanks so much, Nseke. Every time I have honors folks share about the program, I feel like we should let you all speak to it almost exclusively. I really thanks so much for the description, and also I think mentioning also some of those aspects outside of the project. I think there's a lot of closeness that happens within the honors experience because it is such a small cohort, and getting to really work closely within teams and within the cohort. So I completely agree. It's a huge part of the experience as well. And last but definitely not least, we have 2 members of Team Adapt here to share about their project experience, their honors experience, maybe more broadly, and kind of how you pivoted and what that looked like doing that with your project partner. So Yo-Yo and Shirley, I'll let you all take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess like I think all of the above, what everyone just said, and I think like a really big aspect of our team that I thought was special, like a takeaway for me, was like the amount of teaming and like cohort building that we had within our team. It's something that made us like very strong. Since like the project was so long term, like I think it taught us a lot about flexibility. Like it gave us a lot of time to change, and like we explored many different research methodologies. So a lot of what we learned in the first year, we really apply in the second year. And I think it also gave us a lot of time to experiment and like think about what we wanted to do as individuals as well. So like, we all came in with different goals of like wanting to be better at interviewing, to do more physical prototyping. So like we were able to shape the project to like what we wanted to do. Because I kind of remembered that like this first started off as a catalog about adaptive clothing, and showing off like the options that we have. And so it's just like the simple catalog. And we took it to how can we allow older adults to express themselves in clothing that they enjoy to be in, like provide them with that individuality that they miss. Because when they're in the elder care facilities, it's kind of a lot of like clothing you can't adapt to like the washing machine systems that they have or things like that. So it's kind of this individuality. So the one thing we want to do was provide more like clothing that's personalized, have a DIY experience. We also like had to really like go against like our assumptions, like what do they actually need? Not like what we think. So what we did was we actually got to go in the field and actually meet them and do this sort of like focus group on and test our various solutions. That was something that like you know, we had the great privilege to be able to do. However, like another big aspect, like pivotal point of our project was the pivot with COVID-19. So because like everything that we were working up to was like very hands-on, wanting to create clothing solutions. So it's like, you know, in person, looking through all these options. However, with COVID-19 and like the massive impact that it has on the older adult population, we did a pivot. Instead of like focusing directly on the like the people living in the facilities, we had to think about protecting the nurses that care for them. So we changed our perspective to this caretaker approach. So we created like an emergency PPE plan to kind of like encompass the needs to like care for the older adults. Since like adaptive clothing solutions just like wasn't on the table anymore. Like there was much more pressing things that needed to be done. So fairly late into our project, like around it was around March at the time, we decided that like there's no way that we can just keep doing the same thing. So we actually were able to take a lot of the research that we had in the past with like clothing solutions and develop it into our DIY gown playbook. We looked up various solutions on masks, face shields, gowns. We got like a community source. We sourced the community to help us sew things together. So like we took a lot of like both that teamwork aspect, like this structural teaming that we were able to like pull through communication, like because we all got separated due to like a quarantine. Like our strong communication let us like, you know, allowed us to continue and stay stable throughout this pivot. And you know, we were all just like working really as like this well-oiled machine at that point. So I think this long-term project really helped in that respect. And we were able to like really make this like almost, you know, massive turn to create this new solution of like PPE. We donated a lot of gowns, and so we were able to do something like that. Yo-Yo, is there anything else you would like to add?
Thanks, Shirley. I think you covered a breadth of just what our pivot entailed, and I think you did a great job. Just to add a few more, it was such a unique opportunity to work with the community in Berkeley, and specifically with the gowns that we delivered. It would have been possible if we didn't have many different sewers or fabric distributors helping us to get things in bulk and get those sent out to certain hubs that we had created. So essentially we were part of the creation of a supply chain that led to us donating 500 reusable gowns to Elder Care Alliance. And so just highlighting that pipeline that really made all of this possible, I think brings us to see that the honors experience is very unique. Like, I don't think on the top of my mind that I could imagine another, 1 year experience at Cal where you're able to work with real life situations, people outside of your community, outside the campus, with the help of very smart and brilliant people at Berkeley, and to be able to deliver. I think that's the most important part, where we were able to ideate, prototype, and shift gears to another solution, but we were able to deliver at the end. I'm very grateful for my team members who were willing to work and close off the project even way after we graduated and into the summer, and to tie things up. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you both so much. Yeah. All right, and then again, just one more kind of overview before we turn it over to open Q&A. Again, some of the big takeaways are really kind of some of the aspects we have shared here. There's the all hands monthly meeting as a cohort, as well as biweekly labs that are really customized to the team needs. as well as opportunities for one-on-ones within that same GSI and or program staff. There is a retreat, a weekend in spring semester, more to come on that. An opportunity again for a project and partnership or fellow driven that really is built in to really showcase those prototyping, reiterating user research, and then that delivery and really building in structure for those pivots. Additionally, again, a leadership component, a real focus on professional development through career services and opportunity to cross collaborate. So before I turn it over to open Q&A, just friendly reminder about the application and what it entails. It is due this upcoming Sunday. So hopefully it'll be done and give you some breath within finals week. And their components there, 2-minute video can be literally just talking at the camera, sharing what you are interested about the Honors Fellowship, maybe reflection of what you've earned this year. And then that Google form. But again, before I turn it over to our panelists, I want to first see if Jennifer has anything to add, and I will stop sharing my slides.
Hi, everyone. I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A, but thank you to the alums who all came back. It's really fun to see you. I think one thing that was really nice and current honors fellow, and Seke, shout out. I think it's also really nice to see the variety of projects. So you see like their own ventures, different pivoting, kind of Madhav and his team wanting to kind of pursue an organization or a specific type of problem. So we help them through that. Also being able to pivot during it. I think it's going to be really exciting to have both tracks in an honors, right? That'll be kind of the first time we do that. And as you know, some of the projects that you worked on really intersect conservation and health. So that it will be really exciting. But other than that, I think they covered it, but want to have time for questions from you all.
Yeah, so now I invite you all, if you have a question, feel free to unmute and ask directly or put in the chat. And if not, I always have questions to ask.
I was wondering if I could ask a quick question. I was just wondering what the process was like choosing your group and how that worked. I know that there's a lot of people in my group that are a little bit confused about how that works and how you all chose a really amazing group and had really great ventures. So if you could share your insight on that, I think that would be really helpful.
I can give a stab on our 2019 to 2020 cohort and how that worked. Maybe it's different for the cohorts, you know, that came after us, but for us, I remember that we had a kind of like a session, an info session with all the partners and kind of getting to know them and what their business is like or their nonprofit services are like, to get to know them a little bit better and kind of what they're looking for. And that also allowed us to have like in-person connection and conversations about what they were hoping to accomplish in their project, or maybe to continue existing projects. So some of them were projects that other fellows were working on already in their year one. They were hoping to further that. And then I remember we had like a Slack communication, Slack thread going on, and kind of a very organically run by fellows, a thread of like voting, you know, if you're interested, and then a lot of also offline conversations with people who are interested in that thread. Especially, so each thread represented project interest for each project or project partner. And then I remember people would post like, hey, these are my skills, and I can contribute XYZ to this project, and I would like to also learn from XYZ. And then I also want to accomplish this goal by the end of the year. And that kind of allowed us to be very intentional about our choosing of our teams and also choosing of the projects. which I really appreciated because I was like, oh, surely we were in the same projects. Like she has like these amazing like prototyping skills that I want to learn. And, you know, there's some skills that she'd like to learn from me too. And I think we would really be able to complement or, oh, there's another teammate like Josie, like we can really connect on this like similar reason why we want to choose this project partner, because we want to work on something that's related to retail or something tangible rather than software. So it was definitely from, you know, organic conversations. And if Shirley or Lorraine want to add anything to that year, feel free.
I feel like you've covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Nothing really to add to that.
That was the exact same way we did our year, so nothing to add on that one.
Cool, cool.
I think really quickly, so I think because we were trying to find our own project partner, which we were doing over summer, I and like 3 other people, we sort of I just reached out to a few people earlier that I knew were interested in this intersection, and you know, to see if they were interested in joining me or not. So that's also just with the caveat that because we had an earlier timeline, because we were sourcing our own partner, that's where that came about. But I don't, yeah.
And I'll quickly add that for my team, as I mentioned earlier in my project description, we actually split off after we decided to team together. And I think that mostly came from the fact that we didn't really have a lot of conversations before joining together as a team. We were all just kind of interested in working with Bitmark. But then thankfully, yeah, like Jennifer and our GSI Caroline kind of helped us mediate and figure out what our interests were, what the conflicts were within the group, and like how to move forward. So that is also a possibility. Just want to throw that out there too.
I kind of like to think of it. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, let's hear from you, Yo-Yo.
Oh, I kind of like it to think about it as like a two-way dual interviewing process. Like you're interviewing the project partner, but you know, your potential project team members are also kind of interviewing you, except in a more informal way. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, I was just going to say 2 things from that. It was really good. One of the things I think we touched on a little bit, maybe not a lot in this, is that we really want to model what it's like in the real world. So you will try to build teams. You'll be working with diverse team members. You will be, you know, working with a client or on a project and needing to pivot, and kind of how do you navigate those types of situations. So I think that was also really nice of what all of you just shared. Those are very valuable personal and professional development skills that you get. And the second thing was kind of, we're going to follow Madhav's lead here and do more work in the summer to kind of see what organizations and community partners you want to work with and what topics, and help you form those teams early so you can really hit the ground running when the semester starts. Because sometimes that can be a lag and there takes some time to work that up. So want to have that in this next evolution of the honors program.
Thanks for the question, Mari. Any other questions from you all?
If there's no question, I got something to say. Touching on kind of like what Jennifer just said, the first part, I think what's also so great about the Fung Fellowship is that you are allowed the opportunity to have conflict amongst each other. I think with a lot of different classes, you're in that honeymoon phase, like, oh, I'm not trying to step on nobody's toes. Well, when you're working with somebody for an entire year, you're going to step on people's toes. They're going to step on your toes. And I think it's such a vital, important skill. To Jennifer's point, you have to learn how to deal with conflict. Whether or not you stay with a group or you depart from a group, you have to go through those pains of like, what does that look like? What is your breaking point? What is irreparable that you're not willing to deal with? So I think within the Fung Fellowship, the Honors Fung Fellowship, it's so great because you get to kind of learn about yourself and learn what you won't tolerate and learn that where you're willing to bend at. So I think that was a great experience that I had within my group too.
I think maybe one little thing I wanted to add on that was, you know, looking back on it, I think our teaming experience was great, but like when we were in the thick of it, there were many points in which we were just like super unsure about what was going on next. Like, there was like, how do we even talk to each other in like the correct way? Like we are crossing threads with like emails and making sure like gotta stay professional, but also like what are we doing ourselves? So like there's very much a lot of like these growing pains throughout that experience. Like one time we met at Cafe Blue Door and just talked for 5 hours on like what we're gonna do with the Google Drive, what we're gonna do with Notion, how's like our sprint meeting going? Like sprints, like who's like being like the liaison for the next 2 weeks, and like is our system working right? We had to like do a lot of revision and figuring things out, and that's just like internal team stuff. Like it's somewhat separate from the project too. Like huge growing things that we had to like learn and communicate on. I think that was something vitally important for us.
Shirley, you also made me think about one of the things is like you all are touching on also project management skills in a bigger way, because like to Lorraine's earlier point about you can do what you want with your time, right? And so I think having that full year, like as students, as we've all done, you're like cramming right before, like there's a big presentation. This is a really good skill set to bring you into your, first job or your next job out of college, is that project management skills and knowing different communication platforms and doing sprints and doing stand-up meetings and having all of these kinds of things that you just can kind of learn and practice and see also, to Nseke's point, what works well for you and which tool was most effective and where was it challenging. So that's also another aspect that you get a lot of experience in the honors program as well. Adrian, should we touch on anything else? Unless there's any other questions too. It seems like we might have a time for another question.
I just wanted to do one more just quick round robin with our panelists of what's one thing that surprised you in the honors experience and that you didn't anticipate going in. And maybe Lorraine, if you wouldn't mind starting, and then we'll popcorn around.
Sure. Wow. This is a hard question. Well, okay, I would certainly say that one of the things that, no one anticipated was COVID, obviously, and like how to pivot around that. I think that initially I was feeling very like hopeless about our project and particularly our advisory board and how to continue with that and how to make sure that our like advisory board members were taken care of and that our team was taken care of and all of these different things. I was feeling very confused, but I was really surprised with how resilient everyone was and how willing everyone was to like bind together and just keep going. I think that one of the beauties of the honors program is that when you're working so closely with people, yeah, you're going to come into conflict, but you're also going to like come into love and like come into partnership in a new and radical way that you can't do in like a 6-week design sprint. So yeah, I think that really surprised me and what that can do. And I will popcorn to Shirley, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Like I need like a moment to think, but like, a couple of things just like, not to be cheesy, but like I can't imagine my senior year without doing this project. Like sort of like breath from like everything else that was going on. Like, and another thing is like the power of like working on an interdisciplinary team, like can't be understated. Like from these different realms, from different points of view, I think that really was important. And then one thing, like finally for me, was just like, I think I left feeling like really more confident. I think I started out like this honors, you're just like, I have no idea what it's like to be a professional. I don't know anything at all. Or I don't know how to talk to people. I was like, what am I doing? So I think there's like a little bit more just like, I can do this. I have so much more to know. I can talk about things. I can do this. Like, I think that's sort of like feeling, it kind of evoked this sort of new feeling in me that I didn't have before. and that's very valuable to me.
Thanks so much, Shirley. It's popcorn or yo-yo.
I think for me, it would have to be, I learned a lot about the impact of being honest with each other, like honest feedback from your GSI, honest feedback from your industry mentor, honest conversations between team members. And I keep remembering the Myers-Briggs session that we had as a team and how honest and vulnerable we were and how much I learned about my teammates on that day in that 2-hour session. And that's still something that I bring into my work on a day-to-day basis now, in thinking about how I work with other individuals in a professional setting and how to communicate with them. And so yeah, I would say, besides of all the unexpected things that could ever happen in a design process with all the pivots and stuff, I think the most unexpected is like how much I've grown to know myself and what I could improve on and my strengths and weaknesses, not just like, oh, I'm kind of weak on this, but it's like, okay, like this is like genuinely, this is my weakness and this is my strength, and to be able to work on that.
Thanks so much, Yo-Yo. Madhav, if you wouldn't mind going next.
Yeah, I think it's a hard question to answer. I've been thinking and I'm not sure. I think really something that's been said, but just it's something that everyone tells you, right? Like even last year, I went to the final presentation and I saw, like the pivots that went, not just because of COVID, but because it's so long, it does take you on like that. There's a journey that you cannot map linearly from the beginning to the end. And even though you go in knowing that, right? But that still surprised me. And I think the rest of my team too, like the nuances and the little smaller, even if it's a smaller pivot, that's just certainly like we didn't do anything as awesome as you all with the shot line, just, making that happen. But even then you just can't predict where it'll go.
Thanks so much. And last but not least, Nseke, if you don't mind closing us out, something that surprised you.
Something that surprised me was, I guess two things. We won some grants. We won like the Jacobs grant for like $2,000. And then the biggest thing was all the news coverage we got, like San Francisco did about twice in K2. So that was like exciting. And one of my memoirs that I'm gonna take with me in frame, I came home yesterday and I seen like the San Francisco Chronicle at my front door, and it was there. We're not the murderers on the side, but that's, and I was super juiced. Like we went and had a full photo shoot, and it was like the pictures when I came home. And I was just like, I wasn't expecting it, and I just seen it. I was like, oh, that's us. So I think that was the most exciting, unexpected thing.
We're going to need to have one of those to frame in the classroom as well. But I know, thank you all. We've gone a little bit over time, but I just wanted to capture those and really appreciate the reflections, all that you've shared, your time, and also your insights. Truly is the joy of I think the fellowship and this role, and also is really working with all of you, and it's so good to see you again. Also really excited about the prospective honors students and what is to come in our next iteration. And with that, I'll just do one more reminder for the recording that our applications are due Sunday at midnight. Please let us know if there's any questions. And again, panelists, thank you so much. And if there's any questions, just feel free to reach out. With that, I'll stop recording. All right, and just want to say thank you so much. Really appreciate everyone's time.
Really quickly, I think we are all on Slack, so feel free to drop a note if you have any questions.
And we will be planning some like alumni stuff in the future too as well. So excited to see everyone. And Shirley, you're going to be back on campus, right?
It is an online course, but like I will be on campus at some point in the
Okay. Make sure you stop by.
Definitely.
Okay. Bye, everyone.